As a part of our Year 12 physical education, we are required to coach a small group of Year 4 students in a chosen sport of our choice, with the goal of developing their fundamental skills over 5 weeks. We began with a class discussion, deciding which sport to focus in on. AFL was the outcome of this conversation, as most Year 4 students are somewhat familiar with this game. Familiarity was very helpful, as we assumed they were all in the cognitive stage of learning. Once this was set in stone, we broke off into our coaching groups of 3, where Charlie, Willem, and I identified key skills required in AFL junior players: kicking, handballing, catching, and bouncing. We planned simple, measurable skills testing and age-appropriate drills to develop these abilities. But as it is known, repetition doesn't guarantee improvement. Only correct technique does. So, our drills allowed for continuous terminal feedback, helping students correct errors in real time. We also applied the information processing model by limiting how much information we gave, following the 7 plus or minus chunking rule, helping all students focus and remember the main teaching points. By breaking down big, unknown skills into smaller, manageable skills, we aimed to move the most knowledge from the STM into the LTM. Each week consisted of a warm-up, skills testing, or skill-building drills, and a small-sided game to apply those skills. Group sessions were approximately 45 minutes long before the game, which goes for 15 minutes. Each week, we build up on the previous week's skills, modifying drills and games. This is important as it keeps activities fresh and appropriately challenging, helps also supply the changing needs and abilities of the students, and allows for continual development over the 5-week program. To make sure our AFL coaching program for Year 4 students was purposeful and well-structured, we developed a SMART goal. SMART goals are important as they provide clear intentions while tracking progress. To track the progress of our Year 4 students and evaluate the effectiveness of our AFL coaching program, we decided to do fortnightly benchmarking through regular skills testing. This benchmark allows us to identify each student's skill level while finding areas for improvement for the group as a whole. We used simple, observable drills to assess each student's performance in the 4 fundamental AFL skills: kicking, handballing, catching, and bouncing. Scores are given out of 5 each week, 1 acting as a baseline for future testing. For kicking, we place 2 cones 2 metres apart to form a goal. Students will stand 5 metres away and attempt to kick a football through the cones. Each student will be given 5 attempts. 1 point is awarded for each successful kick through the target, with a final score out of 5. This is tested as it is a standard skill in the game of AFL. We are looking for students to demonstrate basic kicking technique, including balanced eye-foot coordination and control with power and direction. Success in this skill indicates a solid understanding of body positioning and ball contact. The handball. The coach will be standing in a marked spot 3 metres from the students. Each student will be given 5 chances to handball the football and hit the coach. Each accurate handball that makes contact scores a point. The total is recorded out of 5, and this test evaluates whether the students can correctly use handball technique in an accurate manner, hitting the target. Catching. The coach will stand approximately 5 metres away from the student with a football in hand. The coach will throw the ball underarm towards the student, who must attempt to catch it cleanly with 2 hands. Each student will get 5 attempts. 1 point is awarded for each successful catch, with a maximum score of 5. Here we are testing safe catching techniques, this time using 2 hands out in front of them, ready to catch. This tests hand-eye coordination and reaction time. Bouncing. The student will stand on their own and perform a bounce, aiming to catch the ball after each bounce. A point is awarded for each successful bounce and catch. Each student will have 5 attempts with a max score of 5. Bouncing tests coordination, timing, and ball control. Success is identified as a completed bounce, the ball being pushed into the ground with the right amount of force for it to be catchable again. In week 1, our data reflected that most students were in the cognitive stage of learning, evident by the high amount of errors, inconsistent performance, and relying on feedback from coaches. Starting out, there were many technical errors that couldn't be corrected by the player on their own, such as poor kicking technique and missed time bounces. This is very typical in a cognitive learner, and was very so much expected, as most of them are just trying to understand the basics of the game. As a technical coach, this meant I had to provide constant feedback, a mix of concurrent, terminal, positive, and negative, giving the best chance for improvement. Straight away, looking at the stats, you can see the variation in skill level, with Lawrence and Sophie both scoring low across most skills, particularly in bouncing, which is definitely the most difficult skill to learn, requiring high amounts of coordination and timing. On the other hand, Mason performed strongly, going perfect in handballing, catching, and bouncing, indicating he is more of an associative learner with an intermediate skill level, needing much less assistance than the others. This variation in skill level suggests that we need to differentiate the feedback and instructions to individual learners. In week 2 post-initial week testing, our group got together and reflected upon the strengths and challenges of our coaching session, what went well, what didn't, and how we could improve going into next week. One of the major positives was the students' high level of participation and readiness to learn. They were all very engaged, but the downside of this being the students' overexcitement, being too aroused to cause inattentiveness. Also, we recognised areas we need to improve in as coaches. These included organisation. Still a bit rushed, and as head coach Charlie stated, I think next time we all need to come together before the session and go over the plan, not just a quick email and share document. Inattentiveness. At times, we were just waiting for things to happen, explaining the drill or activity once and then just letting the kids go for it. We need to be more on our toes, especially when activities aren't going to plan or when a drill needs adjusting. Being confident and assertive with the group. We needed to be more vocal and decisive with instructions. This will help maintain group attention and transitions between drills. And finally, the final game. The final game was structured into a 50v50 scenario, where all students from all groups lined up and we split them into even numbers. While this seems like an exciting way to end the session, it ended up being very chaotic and unsafe. There were way too many people in such a little field. This led to overcrowding and confusion. This, along with allowed tackling, resulted in an unsafe environment for the younger students. Several students sat out of this final match feeling overwhelmed, while others actually did get injured and had to exit the match. Areas that we thought were good were participation. Everybody in our group participated, wanting to learn and be active. Readiness to learn and listen, and positive reinforcement. But what we really focused on was the area for improvement. The large 50v50 format, combining all students from all groups and splitting them evenly, became very chaotic very quickly. The playing field was much too small and crowded, leading to confusion and unsafe tackling. As a result, students sat out feeling unsafe or overwhelmed. In response, we came up with a solution to split the boys into the girls into separate games and remove any tackling entirely for the girls, and introducing a 3-tap rule for the boys to reduce physical contact, therefore keeping everybody safe. After week 1, Charlie, Willem and I created a student profiling document in which we recorded our early observations for each student's skill level, learning stage and support needs. This helped us plan a more effective coaching experience throughout the program. Most students were in the cognitive stage of learning, meaning they were still developing basic techniques, made frequent errors, and relied heavily on feedback. Mason stood out as the only associative learner. To us, he was confident, regular football player who required minimal assistance. This profiling gave us much insight into how to differentiate drills, pair students effectively, and provide feedback that matched each learner's stage of development. By week 3, our AFL coaching program had made noticeable progression within students' abilities. This is evident through the consistent practice, targeted instruction, effective feedback, and overall results. Although some students were absent this week, and some could not be fully assessed, along with the placement of the program being changed to the gym, the data recorded showed a clear pattern of development, aligning with information processing model and game-based learning model being used. Most students showed clear development from week 1 scores across multiple skills. Harry and Olivia both demonstrated growth, with Harry achieving full scores in catching and handballing. Olivia showing steady improvement in bouncing and catching, making her way towards the associative stage of learning. Evie made significant improvements in ball handling and catching, though her bouncing remained low, as the skill demands high fine motor skills and much practice through chunking to master. Mason continued to excel, with perfect scores across the board, reflecting a solid response to given feedback. Overall, in week 3, I believe we had a bit of a problem with our skill gap. Our skills testing was not being tailored to all students, reflecting their current state of learning. On one hand, you have Mason, a very strong associative learner, and on the other, Lawrence, very new to the game and a low-level cognitive learner. Another important factor this week was the change in environment. The oval to the gym, as the forecast was not in our favour this day. While the gym gave some controlled, closed environment, it also introduced some new challenges we weren't expecting. The echo and the loud noises from the gym from other groups made it difficult for some students to hear instructions clearly and stay focused. This added to the overall sensory load and highly impacted arousal levels. For some students, this led to high stress and not being able to concentrate, while for others, selective attention was an issue. Charlie and I spoke on this about how the noise and echo negatively impacted our session. We agreed that if bad weather is likely to continue, we need to change the plan and be constantly checking the weather app in the days leading up to our session. This allowed us to adjust our session where needed, simplifying drills, making sure there was more of a visual aspect, and modifying any games had planned. This week, Charlie and I reflected on the progress and the challenges from our week 4 AFL coaching session. By this time, the students were very comfortable with this weekly routine, showing up ready to learn, listen, and respond to instructions. Their participation has not dipped, remaining strong, maybe even better than the previous week, as our feedback as coaching skills has improved. However, we also, again, identified areas for improvement. Organisation and timing were better than ever, but still needed improvement. Charlie mentioned that we should be able to continue preparing more thoroughly pre-session to avoid any confusion and be able to focus on the session. Another key discussion was the skill gap between students. Mason continues to excel and needs more advanced challenges, while students like Edie are still working on basic technique. We realised we needed to change something. We decided to improve their skills via partner-based activities, where students can be grouped based on their skill level. This will allow stronger players to challenge each other, while beginner students can work together in a more supportive environment. We are hopeful this change will allow for more targeted feedback, better engagement, and clearer progression for all learners. In our final weeks of teaching AFL, the results reflected some great individual growth along with recurring challenges across different skill areas. Harry, Olivia, Addie, and Evie remained strong performances, especially in handballing and catching, consistently scoring 4s and 5s, which shows they have more than likely moved into the associative stage of learning. Evie made an impressive jump from her early week 1 scores, ending with 5 out of 5 in all skills except bouncing, which still, after 5 weeks, remains the most difficult skill for all students, the highest score being a 3 out of 5. Sophie and Lila showed some improvement in kicking and handballing, but continued to perform at a beginner level overall. Their progress has been slower, which is normal at the cognitive level, being new to the game. This suggests they may have needed some further assistance and some more one-on-one with the coaches. Edie, while inconsistent in bouncing, ended the program with a perfect kicking score, showing heaps of improvement and her capabilities when well supported and focused. In week 5, the final game involved all coaching groups coming together, similar to other weeks, but better. There was a noticeable improvement in structure and flow of the setup and game. This time the space was again better managed, with clearer boundaries along with similar safety rules and clear instructions at the start of the game. For this game, all students were active and were happy to join in, unlike previous weeks when they did not feel they fit in or their skill was not on par. As a final game, this was a pretty good opportunity for students to show their development, but it also showed the continued need for differentiation and structured support. In conclusion, our 5-week AFL coaching program helped us grow as coaches while supporting Year 4 students in developing key skills. Through planning, feedback and reflection, we adapted to challenges and saw real progress.